Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new week, brand new month of FPC Radio Live. And speaking of brand new, we got some brand new things going on right now, John. Two pretty big stories over the weekend, or over the last couple days, rather, because we were not on the air yesterday. But the long-awaited James Harden trade finally happened. Finally, John. He heads to the LA Clippers, and in the wee hours of the night last night, about 2 a.m., it got announced that, well, guess what? Josh McDaniels is no longer the Raiders head coach. And this is coming on the heels of their Monday Night Football loss. Just kind of a disappointing performance, as has been the case for much of the season this year. But we'll start with James Harden, John, because obviously this is something we've talked about before and has been kind of, one of the bigger NBA stories heading into the regular season. And we've gotten to the point where we played a couple games in the regular season, and now James Harden is a LA Clipper. And I must say, John, it moves me zero.
Really?
It does.
Okay.
Well, let's put it this way. How many times have they tried the Westbrook Harden connection? This will be the third, right?
The third time.
Yeah.
The third time, yeah. The first, it was as young men with Oklahoma City.
Right.
They did get to the finals, but they were really
they also had a young Kevin Garnett, too. So, there's I understand there's youngness there, and there's a lot of, inexperience, but you had those three players together. And again, I'm not putting the blame on Harden, but I'm just saying that, there was something off about the dynamic. That should have been more successful. Correct? Do you think that's fair to say? Maybe
happened in Oklahoma City, I think, again, he only played 3 years in Oklahoma City, and then they decided to trade him because they weren't going to re-sign him. And then they did re-up together in Houston for 1 year, and that just didn't work. And I don't think it's going to work with the Clippers. But the Clippers at least have two better players than Harden and Westbrook and Paul George and Kawhi Leonard if they play.
I was going to say, 35 games?
The one thing about Westbrook is he shows up. And sometimes it's unfortunate for his team that he shows up and plays 75 games because he gets in the way. And Harden will give you generally 60, 65 games. The other two, who knows? But Harden's a difficult guy to play with. He's so ball dominant, as is Westbrook. They're going to need two basketballs when Westbrook, Harden, Kawhi, and Paul George are on the court together. And they're all from LA originally, so maybe they have this kinship that they're going to bring a championship to the Clippers.
Well, and part of this too is okay, we've seen the Clippers kind of swing big and bring in stars of yesteryear and that type of thing, where it's okay, that didn't really work out, so I got to kind of see it to believe it. So I'm not going to get overhyped about everyone posted who's going to stop the starting four. I'm I don't care. I don't even care. I still think that Celtics, the Bucks, they're just better. And second too, wherever James Harden has gone, John, there's always an issue. And I'm not saying every situation he's been in has been perfect, but at a certain point, you have to see a pattern here. And to me, I just say, okay, so the Clippers are going to be a pretty good team, and you just kind of hope that you're not going to get that, issue with Harden that you've gotten with every stop that he's been at. And it's whether it's directly with him or some sort of tension within the organization that comes with him being there, I don't know. I'm not I wish I was a fly on the wall. Well, actually, I don't know, because those walls might be strip clubs, and I don't know if I want to be a fly on the wall in a strip club. But you get my point. I want to know what's going on behind the scenes. That does he just not get along with people? Is he just one of those people that maybe he's a little bit of a loner? But then again, that's what Kawhi Leonard is. So maybe it is perfect for him. Maybe this team is going to be the one that finally gets him. Gets him and everyone with him over the hump.
The issue too with the Clippers is they're clearly the second team in LA behind the Lakers. We know there's several cities that have two professional sports teams. Is there a bigger gap in LA in terms of the Lakers and Clippers than any other two teams?
No, and it has nothing to do with who's better or not.
Right, absolutely. The Clippers could win a championship and the Lakers would still be front page news. It's the Lakers. I mean, the Yankees and Mets is a gap, right? The Giants and the Jets is a gap. The Cubs and the White Sox, so on and so forth. Obviously, the Dodgers and the Angels. But this one is wide. People forget the Clippers were even there for the most part. And they've had a decent decade where they averaged like 48 wins. They've made it to one conference finals, but they can't break through. They've got the richest owner in all of basketball. He's willing to throw a lot of money at it. And I think they're just starved for attention. So it's like, yeah, bring in more stars. Like you said, they're always bringing stars in, and it just hasn't worked because Kawhi Leonard and Paul George don't play together enough. I think they win about 70% of their games when they play together. But the amazing thing, Ian, in the 4 years they've been together, they've only played in 40% of their team's games together. That you can't win with that.
Yeah, that's crazy,
isn't it? I mean, so you're not going to get those two guys out there together. It's more likely they don't play together than they play together, which is not a good way to run a basketball team. Now, maybe Westbrook and Harden can fill in the gap, so you rest those guys for the postseason. But who even knows with Kawhi Leonard if he's available for the postseason? But yeah, I mean, Harden, obviously, it's got to be him, right? You know that old adage: if someone has a problem with everybody, it's probably them, not the other people.
Right.
And that's probably the case with James Harden.
Exactly, and it's like we've seen enough. We've seen enough issues over his career with other, with every situation he's been in, that it's like you'd be foolish not to think that, yeah, maybe James Harden's part of the problem. Even the biggest James Harden fan, I think James Harden's season on Twitter, I think would even say that, because it's like at the end of the day, it's like, okay, like it's not like everyone's out to get you everywhere you go. It's okay. You have some habits that clearly get on the nerves of some people that you're with. So, either way, like I said, I'm gonna hesitate to get super hyped about it because of the things we just mentioned. I want to kind of see it play out because, like I said, right off the top of my head, I can think of just several other teams that, even on paper, I think are just better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, we obviously
they're better constructed without question. The Celtics and Bucks, certainly the defending champs.
Right.
To a flying start. I mean, they're just well constructed. Golden State, they're old as hell, but those guys play well together. The Lakers, we know Davis and LeBron play well together. We don't know about this foursome in LA. It's just going to be there's going to be nights in where it looks spectacular. There's going to be nights where you look at it and go, these guys look like they shouldn't even be on the court together.
Right. It's like how many, there's not as much, there's not enough shots to go around, and we're just talking about Westbrook and Harden, let alone Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So, yeah, well, like I said, it'll be entertaining to say the least. I mean, whether it's a success or massive failure, one way or the other, it's going to be talked about. So, anyway, so last night, so we got, actually, I found out the news not too long ago because I kind of missed it earlier, but Josh McDaniels, surprisingly, I wouldn't have guessed it even after kind of a slower start this year, did not even make it long enough to surpass his tenure with the Denver Broncos. That's incredible. But I think 2 games. So, yeah, it's look, I like Josh McDaniels. Obviously, he's a Patriots guy. He helped win a lot of Super Bowls for this team. It just seems pretty obvious that, well, first of all, he's terrible at picking situations. Let's put it that way. I thought the Raiders had some talent, but clearly this was a situation that, I mean, it's the Raiders. When's the last time that they were moderately successful? 20 years ago?
Well, 2 years ago they did make the playoffs.
No, but
I mean, he did go to a team that technically was coming off a playoff season.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about like one playoff appearance and like I'm talking about like you first of all you choose Denver, who at the time was kind of in a huge rut, and I get it. The teams that are successful usually aren't looking for head coaches. I understand that, but I feel like he just not that he's a great head coach, but I feel like he almost set himself up to fail. Not purposely, but just going into the situation because, well, first of all, I thought he would get a little bit more of a leash because of the situation he was taking over for, because it was a mess between the Gruden situation, the Mayock draft, returns that they were having. So, I thought he'd have a little bit more time to kind of sort through these, but perhaps the pursuit of Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think losing Derek Carr has anything to do with it. I think that upset some players maybe, but I mean, Derek Carr's not a good quarterback. So, like,
no, but it upset your best player and a guy you gave a lot of money to and traded 2 draft picks for and Devontae
true.
Adams.
Oh, true.
You know,
But at the same time, too, like, if you're an owner, it's like, I understand that you two are friends, but I mean, Derek Carr is just not a great quarterback. So,
no.
like that, I'm sorry that upset you, but like, clearly the Raiders had to go in a different direction. Unfortunately for them, the direction they went in was a oft injured, a very low ceiling capped quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo. And now you're, there. I read something or a blurb about the decision to start Brian Hoyer a couple weeks ago did not go over well, and I don't think either of us are going to sit here and pretend like Josh McDaniels isn't a volatile personality, but also a confrontational one too. And maybe not outright confrontational, but he does come across as a very rough around the edges. Belichick without the without the reputation, which
like maybe passive aggressive in some sense.
Exactly. And more
which
of
sometimes annoying to people rather than
right.
Like Billy O'Brien and Tom Brady had their shouting match on the sideline, but it was just like 2 friends yelling at each other, which happens.
Right.
That's
right.
going to happen.
Exactly.
Whereas when someone's passive aggressive, that annoys someone, especially a competitor like Brady. Look, the guy went to Denver. He had Jake Cutler. That didn't work out. He went to the Raiders. He had Derek Carr. That didn't work out. Let's also not forget that his success is tied to Tom Brady. Like, is he a guy who, when he goes to a place, just assumes that he can mold someone into Tom Brady? Well, no, you can't. Right? So it's almost like he was spoiled for, 15 years as the offensive coordinator.
Right. Of course he was. So,
like,
I mean, that entire coaching
of the
staff
New England
was.
Patriots, exactly, the entire organization. I've said it a million times. Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick, and Josh McDaniels should give 10% of their net worth directly to Tom Brady. And I'm not kidding. It's be well worth it. Because look at Josh McDaniels. He's going to be paid another $45 million over the next 4.5 years. He can go play golf, work on his golf game, work on his band or whatever. He's going to get paid.
Sounds like what I want to do. I'm going to go work on my golf game. So,
in Vegas too. I mean, if he wants to stay in Vegas or move wherever he wants.
Yeah, well, I mean, hell, it's probably a good time to leave Vegas for a few weeks because of F1 coming up in a couple weeks.
Right.
So he's probably like, all right, cool, I'll take a vacation. But no, look, I mean, this isn't. Some people use this, because there's again, I just don't subscribe to the whole Brady versus Belichick the way it's covered. Like, if you're going to ask me, and I every time I get an opportunity to say this and clarify this, I do. I just think a elite quarterback is more important than an elite coach because of the fact that they're on the field. So, following that logic, yeah, of course, I'm going to say that Brady was more responsible for kind of the overall success. But that isn't my intent. Isn't to do that to knock Belichick down a peg. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people have been doing that. And they did that to knock Brady down a peg for years. So it's like, it's just the reverse situation. So, you look at the coaches that left and didn't have Tom Brady. Well, yeah, you're not going to be as good because you don't have that. You don't have the greatest quarterback of all time, John. I mean, this isn't like, it's not just an elite quarterback. It's just not a really good quarterback. I mean, who knows? Maybe Josh McDaniels goes out and gets Matt Stafford, a really good quarterback. Okay. And he still fails because guess what? Matt Stafford isn't Tom Brady. So it's like, to me, it's just it's such an obvious step back for these coaches, but I think people pretend like they're shocked. Like, oh my God, how is Josh McDaniels failing? Well, again, you downgraded massively at the most important position in football because, John, the Raiders have talent. Are they any more or less talented than the Patriots in 2019? Post all that, like obviously the first couple of weeks you could have, or the first week really, you could have probably filled out a Pro Bowl roster with their offensive weapons, but we obviously know that was that was very short lived. The Antonio Brown era lasted all of about 6 days. So, but the point is, like, that roster that was pretty much the bulk of the 2019 team, the one that featured N'Keal Harry very heavily. This Raiders team is far more talented than that, both offensively and defensively. Well, maybe not defensively because the
not defensively.
Yeah, I was going to say that
Max Crosby, they're a little bit weak, especially in the secondary.
They do have talent though. That's the thing. They do have talent. So this isn't like Josh McDaniels has been riddled with a team that just is so far off the talent of what the Patriots were. No, in 2019, like I said, the Patriots were. It was one of their, certainly offensive personnel wise, it was one of their weakest units. But guess what? They went 12-4. They still made the playoffs. And you look at a team like the Raiders, and you think there's not a. I would be shocked if they ever even approached 9 wins, let alone 12, and only losing 4. So, so yeah, to me, it's Josh McDaniels, obviously, he's not an elite coach. At least it doesn't seem like it. I also kind of feel like maybe he didn't get enough of an opportunity, because do you really think that it was only a year and a half worth of work to fix this Raiders team? No. Do I think he made mistakes along the way? Sure. But unfortunately for him, he has a reputation now of being a kind of a huge failure as a head coach. But the reality of it is, I don't think it's not that I don't think he's gotten a fair shot. I don't think he's gotten a long enough shot to turn these teams around, especially the Raiders.
Not only just the losing, but he's losing the locker room. When you get Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs after Monday night game, essentially throwing him under the bus, which players will do occasionally. You don't normally see that in the NFL, but look, Devontae Adams is one of the best receivers in football, makes a ton of money, so he can say whatever he wants, and I'm sure he wanted to get out of there. He probably was trying to get himself traded yesterday. That didn't happen. I don't know why the Raiders didn't move him for a second-round pick and maybe just to get rid of his contract, because by the time you get decent, he's going to be an old wide receiver. So it's just, he just must rub people the wrong way as well. Like, you can put up with that type of personality if you're winning 6 Super Bowls. You kind of look the other way and go, okay, this guy's not that easy to deal with, but we'll put up with it because we're winning a lot of games. If you're winning, 20 out of 53 games in your career as a head coach, his record is 20-33, and that includes starting his career 6-0 with Denver.
Yeah.
So last 47 games as a head coach, he's 14-33. I mean, that's how, like, you or I could probably do that. And I think
I'm pretty sure that's a better record than my games picked this year, or better winning percentage.
But you're not paying yourself $10 million a year.
Sadly,
like
no.
He's making.
Sadly, no. I wish I were, John.
See what happens. Maybe it's the wrong account. And it
yeah, I think that's the type of thought I had when I was like 6 years old. It's like, oh, I'll just write a check for $2 million to myself.
Yeah.
I'm sure that worked. No one's ever thought of that before.
Who was the guy that bought the Islanders and only had it for the weekend because he had no money, but he had talked about he was going to wire like $10 million.
Yeah.
And then he wired like 10,000, and then they got back to him. He said, "Oh, geez, it was a clerical mistake. We'll do this on Monday." It was like over 20 years ago when the technology wasn't what it is now. Right. But I remember the guy was like out of his mind.
Yeah.
Bruce McNall looked like, the most stable owner in the history of sports.
Well, that's maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll try to
try it.
Yeah.
I'll see what we can go. I own the Islanders.
Well, I pick a more valuable franchise than that. Yeah, exactly. Come on now. Sorry to all those Islanders fans out there that may be listening. So, but yeah. So, anyways, the Raiders are, they're on to another head coach and perhaps maybe another quarterback and another regime, and who knows? We'll see. But maybe if Josh McDaniels gets another opportunity, maybe just avoid the AFC West.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just pick a team, maybe the Colts were the team, maybe not.
Yeah.
But maybe, go pick another one. And in reality, we'll see in New England in a couple weeks. So, because, that's obviously that's going to happen. Special offensive assistant, Josh McDaniels.
Yep.
I mean, come on. Let's, anyone going to bet against that right now? Anyone?
No,
Bueller?
Mac would be happy. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, look, hey, some guys are just better suited at certain jobs. Like, do I think? But again, John, look at his time as an offensive coordinator with the Rams. Very short, brief, very unsuccessful. What's the common denominator? Well, yeah, exactly. So, all right, that's going to do it for us here today. Very short, very sweet, kind of like Josh McDaniels' reign as the head coach of the Raiders. But we'll be back tomorrow. We got Thursday Night Football coming up. And of course, we're going to give our top 5. We'll do our top 5 teams tomorrow, too. So, so it'll be fun. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we will talk to you tomorrow.